Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member of the Washington Waste Watchers, and I just listened to one of my esteemed colleagues from Texas speak about instances of waste in federal government and why some of us have such a hard time understanding and believing why it's so easy for our good friends, the Democrats, to constantly ask for massive tax increases while we see the waste that goes on in the federal government. And I just would like to read portions of a letter, Mr. Speaker, from of a memo, actually, from the Inspector General of the Department of Energy, dated March 2003, and it's an audit report regarding the transfer of excess personal property from the Nevada test site to the community reuse organizations. And, Mr. Speaker, during the 1990s, as a result of changes in program direction of the department, the Department of Energy downsized or reconfigured a number of different facilities, including this stated Nevada test site. To mitigate any economic damages or impacts, Congress then authorized the department to transfer excess personal property and provide aid to these local civic development organizations that are commonly known as CROs. These transfers, and this is what the memo says, these transfers were based on the express understanding that the property was to be excess of department needs, obviously. And also, the memo then further states, despite the realization that the transfers might be made at less than fair market value, the department was to receive, obviously, reasonable consideration from these CROs for said personal property. Mr. Speaker, I want to kind of talk about some of the results, though, of the audit. The audit disclosed that Nevada's personal property transfers practices, I'm quoting, did not strike an appropriate balance between the efforts to assist community development and the need to assure, and this is the part that I insist, when you read things like that, you wonder why the Democrats insist on that passion to raise the taxes on the hardworking American taxpayer. Because this says, again, that there was no balance and that federal taxpayers received... hold on a second. I lost my place. Did not strike a balance, appropriate balance between the efforts to assist community development and the need to assure that the federal taxpayers received reasonable consideration for property transferred to the local CROs. In fact, the audit says, we found that the taxpayers were frequently shortchanged in this process. And yet, the Democrats want to raise the hardworking American people's taxes to do more of this kind of thing. The audit continues. It says, in February 2002, a drill rig was sold to the local CRO for $50,000 that is now being offered for sale by an out-of-state equipment broker for $3.9 million. You better believe the taxpayer was shortchanged. And yet the Democrats insist on wanting to raise the taxes of the American people. It said that this group transferred hundreds of pieces of equipment, including trucks, office machines, and trailers, purchased, by the way, by taxpayers, to the CROs for $1 per transfer. And this is a part which is even harder to believe, Mr. Speaker. It said it provided laboratory equipment to the CRO that was needed at another department site, ultimately causing the department to spend $2.5 million to replace the equipment that they had basically given away. Another $2.5 million to purchase that equipment a second time because it was given away. Nothing happens. Now, the president is trying to change that, and he's aggressively trying to change that. And we're going to have a debate tomorrow in the Budget Committee where we're going to try to stop this abuse. We're going to try to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. And I hope that our dear friends on the Democratic side this year, for a change, do not propose amendments to raise taxes, to increase spending, but will join us in trying to cut waste, protect the American taxpayer. I don't have great faith because they haven't done so. That's not in their culture and their tradition. I hope they do so because the American taxpayer is fed up with waste, fraud, and abuse. They want help in cutting that waste, fraud, and abuse. All of us are going to have a great opportunity tomorrow in the Budget Committee, in the markup. I hope our dear friends on the Democratic side will not side with the constant increases of taxes, will side with us to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, to seriously try to control that part of the budget, not increase taxes, not increase spending, not spending more money, more good over bad money, but will join us to not raise taxes, as they've always wanted to do, but instead will join us to keep the taxes low, to keep the child credits intact, to keep the death penalty tax from going up. As one of our colleagues said, there at least should be no taxation without respiration. And they'll have an opportunity tomorrow. And, Mr. Speaker, let's see what they'll do. I hope they will join us fighting for the taxpayer, not fighting for more waste and more tax increases. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.